Grade 7, it's Mr. Butler again. Now, in the last video, we looked at a newspaper article that had plenty of examples for both direct speech, which we also call dialogue, and also indirect speech, which we call reported speech. But what about other texts that we might want to write? When is it more appropriate to use more direct speech, and when is it more appropriate to use more indirect speech? Okay, so to answer that, we can ask ourselves a question: does it need to be more informative or more dramatic? Ask yourself this: which is more dramatic? Is it watching two people have an argument in real time in front of you, or is it more exciting to listen after the argument to two people gossiping about who said what to whom? Which is more exciting? Well, to me anyway, it's clearly the first. It's more exciting to watch people arguing in real time. Okay, it's more dramatic. And that really boils down to, that really gives us the answer to the question, which should I use more of in my writing? It depends on the usage and the purpose of the writing, okay? So if we look at the newspaper article, a newspaper article needs to be both thoughtful and informative, but it also needs to be dramatic or exciting. So it falls somewhere in the middle of a scale, okay? So if we're talking about typical usage, pieces of writing that are more thoughtful or informative typically have more indirect or reported speech. Pieces of text that typically have to be more dramatic or exciting often have more direct speech or dialogue. Okay, so that allows us to begin to fill in our descriptions here for direct speech and indirect speech. So our typical usage for direct speech is we see more of it in films, in novels, short stories, theatre, TV shows, that kind of stuff. Okay, but if we're talking about typical uses for indirect speech, we'd often find those more in more thoughtful pieces like biographies, essays, analysis, or commentary. Okay, so hopefully that gives us now an insight into when we should typically use more indirect speech and when we should typically use more direct speech.